but by the law, require only 80%. So I will speak about later on about specific, let's say, requirements for being a resident. But as I said, one of the requirements is to make 80% of exports. Export is done to more than 63 countries for nowadays. So the growth rate is very good at this moment. If to speak about the taxes, so on this slide, you can see why companies are actually becoming residents of our park because we give a very good tax benefits. So all main taxes for the companies, like sales tax, income tax, and value-added tax or VAT are zero at the high technology park. So basically for company, all main taxes are zero. In return, they pay 1% to the high-tech park from the revenue that they are earning from the company that was registered in the Kyrgyz Republic. Also, we give a very substantial decrease for income tax per employee. As you know, for IT companies, the biggest portion of costs usually salaries, the biggest portion of costs, and we give a substantial decrease in the income tax per employee, which is only 5% at the high technology park. In a normal tax regime, I think Fatima will speak more. It's 10%, but at the high-tech park, it's only 5%. You know, probably the different tax zones in worldwide, and for sure in Europe, it's much higher in the US, even in some European countries, even in neighboring countries. So our tax regime is one of the very beneficial ways to optimize costs, to reinvest to employees. And also, we also have so-called social fund tax or social contributions. That is also has a substantial decrease, and now it's at the high technology park, it's 12% from the average salary in the country, meaning that it's fixed cost, and it's roughly about $28 per employee. So it's not from the current salary, but it's from the average salary in the country. As you can see, this is one of the main benefits of becoming a resident. And here I also want to highlight that from last year, our president signed a law, and our tax zone, the high technology park law, became perpetual, so it's constant. With these tax benefits, it remains constant. So we are ready to work for long term. So this is our, let's say, big ask for all IT companies, that we are ready to work for longer period. It's not about like a short-term or mid-term goals. It's all about like far beyond going goals. So therefore, we are very happy to see big IT companies. I know for sure that for big companies, it's all about laws. Yeah, they should make sure that it will not end in a few years, and therefore this law allows to work for many years. So on this slide, you can see the comparison. So general tax regime, which is general tax regime in the country, in the Kyrgyz Republic. And on the left side, you will see the high technology park tax regime. So with these benefits that we spoke earlier. And this is just random numbers as an example. Some of the costs for the company, like office rent, payroll fund for 5 employees, some tax, the taxes that you have to pay, like a social fund, personal income tax, net payment to employees, and the taxes that you have to pay as a company. And you can see at the high technology park, as was previously mentioned, so the personal income tax is only 5%, and the contributions to social fund is 12% from the average salary. And the no VAT, no sales tax, and no profit tax. So in comparison to general tax regime, you can see that the profit after taxes is uh, much higher than in normal tax regime. So we can share the numbers as well, so you can count yourself and see why many companies try to join the high technology park. So this is about the numbers from the benefit side. And if to look at this slide, let's talk about the requirements. So in order to become a resident of the high technology park, to get these benefits, the company should comply with three main requirements. One is the company should fit the type of activities that are allowed by our law. So one is software development, and it's a main block, the biggest block. So here we can include a lot of things like uh, creation of software, maintenance, technical support. So all related to software development and IT development. So export of information technologies. Here we have some companies that do animations and they earn through YouTube or AdSense and other similar platforms. This is also emerging sector in our park. And the third, we have so-called interactive service centers, or simply call centers, including dispatch services to some US or European trucking businesses. So basically, in order to become a resident, you should be in one of these type of activities. The second, I would say, one of the main also requirements, you should register a company or legal entity on the territory of Kyrgyz Republic. So our park is exterritorial, so you don't have to sit in one place or rent an office in our premises. You just have to register a company and work at any territory of the Kyrgyz Republic. So the registered legal entity can be a limited liability company, or branch or representative office of your main company, of mother company, or you can also register as an individual entrepreneur. So it's also allowed. So you should register one type of legal entity. This is a second requirement. And third, I would say it's also important. You should do exports for at least 80%. So 20% you can cover the local market. The local market of the Kyrgyz Republic is very small, and therefore we try to, from scratch, encourage our companies to do exports. So from our previous slides, you saw that our residents should do exports for at least 80%, but they are doing much more, for almost 95%. So, but here I want to also highlight one important thing, that 80% we start to require after 1 year after final registration. So we have a so-called division in our high-tech park that the company first become resident as an initial registration for 6 months. During this period, companies should show that they are earning something. Earning something mean that they are getting some revenue, and they should fit in one of type of activities. And by that, we can say that the company is doing well. And after 6 months, we can make them final registration. So the law says that 80% of revenue should come as a result of exports after 1 year of final registration. So if to include this initial registration of 6 months, we have almost 18 months or 1.5 year to start exporting for at least 80%. So from scratch, companies can do less and still become a resident. But after 1.5 year, we start requiring 80%, at least 80% of their revenue should come as a result of exports. So please consider that as well. If you are a bit if you have any more questions on this, so I can say that it's hard to understand uh, for the ones who are listening for the first time. But our experts can tell you more, but that's not that hard as it is. So this is basically the main requirements, and we have 500 companies. If you look at share the revenues, so almost 80, 85% comes as a result of software development. And for remaining part, we have the animations and call centers. So this is a map of our exporting countries. So as you can see, we cover most of the world. So this slide is a bit outdated. Now we're exporting to more than 63 countries. So we cover Asia, MENA, Europe, some African countries, Oceania, and North America. For obvious reasons, one of the main markets for us, it's still the US market, our neighboring country, Kazakhstan. We do a lot of exports to Europe, to some African countries. Some of examples of our activities. These are just some examples. We can say that IT now is everywhere in almost every industry, and our residents do different type of work, outsourcing, outstaffing, and plus they are creating their own startups. In outsourcing and outstaffing, they do different type of work, starting from very simple like creation of websites, mobile applications, and finishing with the solutions for whole spheres like logistics, e-commerce, fintech, edtech, game dev, animations, and one of the like a hot topics for now is AI, machine learning, blockchain. So it's all with a spread in our type of activities among our residents. By this slide, I want to just show some of our resident companies. We have international companies like EPAM Systems, Kanda Software, Alavar. They are all American-based companies that have branch offices in Kyrgyzstan. EPAM has a clients among 500 Fortune list. They have over 60,000 engineers worldwide and operating in Kyrgyzstan as well. The Kanda Software is a Boston-based company, mostly doing for pharmaceutical industry, for medicine, but not limited to that as well. So they're also one of the biggest outsourcing companies among our residents, and they also have clients worldwide. American companies. MedDevs is a local game develop local outsourcing and outstaffing company, creating different type of solutions. And Wicklerbrook is a German company. Turbine and Growwave is some product company. They create add-ons for Shopify, well-known platform, Canadian platform. And I want to finish this slide with the Billions. It's one of the most popular animation bands in Kyrgyz Republic. They create cartoons for kids, and they became very popular. By Bloomberg, they were called as kings of the YouTube. So they have, I think, for now more than 60 billion views on YouTube. Got 3 billion buttons. So it's one of the great examples of Kyrgyz company that can compete with well-known brands in the world like Cocomelon, Baby Shark. So they are at the same segment, creating, let's say, entertaining content for kids. And I think for today's topic, it's more or less I've finished. I want to give you a floor to Fatima as well. We have some goals, as you can see. So we want to regenerate $1 billion, teach more specialists, and rise one unicorn. So this is all about our goals, and we can have different session on telling about our goals and missions. Here I want to finish on this slide. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, so please feel free to write on our WhatsApp, Telegram, or on our website, or on our social pages. And thank you very much for listening. And
Thank you, Chubak.
I'm finishing to share my screen. Fatima, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Send a request.
Fatima is one of our great partners, great lawyer that help our companies to land in Kyrgyzstan, then I think she can tell you more on how basically the some procedures more in detail from the law side.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can see screen, right?
Yeah, I can see
Yes,
your
yes.
screen.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you, dear participants, for your registration. Good afternoon, everyone. And special thanks to the High Technology Park for this collaboration and especially for Chubak. Yeah, my name is Fatima Yakubaeva. I'm attorney at law, patent attorney, tax attorney, and a corporate lawyer. For last 14 years, I've been practicing as a lawyer and defending interest in all entrepreneurs, investors, and other people in the law enforcement authority, judicial system, and did other things as a lawyer and business owner. And today we're gonna discuss about the short information. This is not short information about me. And today we're gonna talk about contracts, licenses, taxation, and labor law regulation. So let's get started from the contracts. So what types of the contracts partners can enter to? So founders agreement. Usually this agreement concludes only if you're officially registered legal entity and concludes between founders. So for example, you set up LLC or LLP and you are not alone, you're with your partners, yeah, and between this group of people you obliged to sign this type of agreement, and it can be basically like a basic description about the rights, about obligations, dispute resolution, but also I highly recommend you to use specific terms in order to have a clear answer when some disputes arise. Joint activity agreement, it also calls simple partnership, and this type of agreement can be signed by commercial organization or individual entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, NGO are not eligible for signing such type of agreement because this works only for commercial organization and individual entrepreneurs, and you already need to have this status. And this, by conclusion of this agreement, does not create the legal entity, separate legal entity. It's just for some period, for when you decided to launch some project and you decided not to open a legal entity for this project, you can sign this agreement and implement your projects, your ideas, and see how it can end. Yeah, and tax obligations arise for each party according to their tax regime. So, for example, you have a general tax regime, and you're gonna pay taxes from your like a VAT, sales tax, profit tax, and like this. Yeah, investment agreement and loan credit agreement. They have a huge difference between themselves. So investment agreement usually means that the investors share with you the risk of loss. Yeah. So, for example, if you just launched a project and it didn't went well, yeah, it didn't go well, so you realize that yeah, we have some losses. Yeah. And this time, investor usually does not have right to charge money back and demand the money back in comparison, for example, with loan or credit agreement. And you know how banks works in our world, yeah? You know that you have to return money back to the bank or to the creditor. Otherwise, it can lead to criminal charges. So that's why investment agreement it's quite preferable for startups, for some IT sector as well, and if you have a choice, I highly recommend you to choose investment agreement, not a loan agreement. Loan agreement is also have a strict regulation and rule about notarization. You have to get a notarization for loan agreement if the amount of the loan up to 50,000 sums. Next slide, contracts with clients. So next slides are more applicable if you are service provider. What types are there? Service agreement, engineering agreement, agency or commission agreements. Sometimes parties prefer to call just agreement in order to have a flexibility in taxation, but sometimes it doesn't work, like because also I am arbitrator in International Court of Arbitration, and as an arbitrator, I know that actually it doesn't matter how you call your contract. What's matter? What's inside? Yeah, what's indicated in the subject? What's indicated in the units where it's described rights and obligation? And if inside the contract wrote that this is about performing the works or provision of some services, it means that the judge or arbitrator gonna interpret this contract in accordance with specific clauses in the civil code. So a service agreement, what's the difference between service agreement and engineering agreement? Engineering agreement usually means that you're performing some works, and at the end of this performance, we have some result. For example, you obliged to make 1,000 chairs, yeah, or some software project, yeah. It usually it considers like a engineering agreement, not a service agreement. Service agreement, it's about services which don't have a like visual form or a touchable form. Yeah, for example, you provide some educational services. People cannot touch your voice. Yeah, you're just doing your job verbally. Yeah, and usually people like some businesses prefer to sign service agreement because there is no guarantee result in a in a material form. Yeah, and agency and the commission agreement, usually this type of agreement choosing where there is a third party, yeah, between seller and buyer, between some client and I don't know, destination or something like that. Yeah, so like in touristic industry or in some industry when um, seller and buyer cannot conclude contract directly, they hire someone who will sign contract on behalf of the buyer or on behalf of the seller. What should be included in the client agreement? So there's like just my recommendation. Of course, we have some regulation in civil code, but at the same time, I recommend to write clear scope of work. It doesn't matter, it's agreement, engineering agreement, service agreement. It's need to be done. What exactly will be done in the this in the end of this cooperation? Yeah, this collaboration. It's really important because sometimes people have a disputes about this exactly. What do we expect to have a result like this, but you didn't give it, you didn't provide to us this result and stuff like that. Yeah. Agreed communication channels is also important remarks because people, of course, we communicate with others via like messengers, via emails, and sometimes we cannot prove that this is a legally valid channel. Yeah, and in the court, it's also sometimes difficult to prove that you agreed on these specific terms because you agreed on like via WhatsApp or Telegram. Yeah, so that's why I recommend you to write down in your contract agreed communication channels between which exactly numbers, which emails, and stuff like that. Yeah. Payment terms, advance payment, lump sum in the end, or deposit. Rights and obligation, who does what and specifically in which term, in which time, and well, and yeah, something like that. Liability and dispute resolution. If conflict arise, will it go to the state court or to arbitration court? Yeah, or to mediation. State court arbitration. This is a totally different universal. Yeah, so state court we have a judicial system, like three instances, and this can be long, painful, and expensive. Yeah. In comparison with arbitration, arbitration usually means that, for example, in our country, in accordance with arbitration law, parties they cannot appeal this court. For example, a judge or arbitrator accepts some decision, and this decision cannot be appealed. So this is the main difference between state court and arbitration courts. What to do if the client refuses to sign the contract? Well, in these cases, I recommend to issue an invoice for payment and include this specific wording. This specific wording helps you to prove that you conclude this agreement, and your correspondence, I don't know, via emails or chats also can be valid. So what this is? Yeah, a payment of this invoice offer, and you can see this is this is source. Yeah, shall constitute conclusion of a service agreement in written form. And this also linked to the law, yeah, and legal source. And this enough, this is phrase and this just small sentence in your invoice for payment can help you in the future to prove to the judge or to arbitrator that this is not just a conversation, yeah, this is a contract, but in a written form, but in like a we concluded via invoice of payment, because after invoice of payment, if your client paid, it means that he accept this rule and accept this wording. Licensing and tax regime. This is the next topic. Licenses are required only for specific types of business activities, and the full list is provided in the law on the licensing and permitting system. Developing IT products do not require a license. This is important remark, and sometimes IT companies outside they ask about this question, and this is exactly I'm with a full responsibility stated that developing IT products do not require license. But if you hire a foreigner, you have to obtain an employment visa and a special permit. And this rule is not applicable if you hire or if your employee is a citizen of Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Armenia, because we have a economic custom union, and this means that we are not obliged to obtain this type of services, type of permit, pardon. Licensed activities, in accordance with specific law, we have 60 types of licensed activities. Activities required permits on these 30 types. And examples from this list is like a sale of alcoholic beverages. For example, you decided to open a bar or a coffee shop and planning to sell coffee with cognac, with wine or something like that. So alcohol beverage. It means automatically that you obliged to have a license from tax authority. Another example, employment service abroad. So if you decided to, and your plan to organize employment process local people to the and you're gonna employ our local people to abroad, for example, abroad. It also means that you have to get specific permits from the state. And money lending with interest, so it considers like a microfinancing activity or even financial activity, and you're obliged to have a license from national bank. Here on this slide, you can see the picture how in general tax regimes works in Kyrgyzstan. So we have basically a general tax regime and special tax regimes. And general tax regimes consist from three taxes. It's a VAT, value added tax, 12% sales tax. It's up to, it depends, that rate depends on way of payment. For example, non-cash payment, it's 1%. Cash payment, it's 3%. Profit tax, 10%. Special tax regimes, we have unified tax, e-commerce, HTP, mining tax, free economical zones, and casino. Criteria here, you can see a comparative table of the form of doing business. Here you can see only two forms of doing business. I think this is like the more popular form, so that's why I put on the two forms. So here you can see registration procedure for LLC, for example, limited liability company. It starts from 3 hours to 3 days. It depends on state fee. If you pay the highest fee, yeah, so it means you can register your company in 3 hours. Taxes, you also can choose general tax regime or simplified tax regimes. If you decided to set up LLC, you're obliged to maintain accounting records. So in practice, it means that you need to hire a accountant or to conclude agreement for accounting services with outsourcing company. Use of profit. After all calculation, dividends payments are not subject to taxation. But we have one exception from this rule. If you haven't stayed, for example, you are founder of the LLC and you are foreigner, yeah? If you haven't stayed in the Kyrgyz Republic more than half of year, it automatically means that you are not a tax resident and you're obliged to pay profit tax. It's 10%. And sometimes it's unpleasant news for foreigners because they find out that this is like not interesting for them. But we have this recent news from the tax department, and this is how it gonna work in this year. Type of reports for LLC, they're obliged to submit monthly, quarterly, and annual report. Limitation for activity, no restrictions, so you can do wherever you want. If you decided to do something which required a license, you need to get this license. And the main indication in this charter and obtain their license, so as I said before. Individual entrepreneur, another form of the popular form of doing business in Kyrgyzstan. It means that one person, like one individual, decided to be entrepreneur and gonna based on the certificate gonna submit application and receive back a certificate as a confirmation that he or she has registration as individual entrepreneur. And unified tax regime, as you can see in the previous slide, I just put it here like unified tax regime because we have many types of unified subtypes, unified tax regime. So a registration procedure for individual entrepreneurs takes only one working day. And if you have like a Tunduk, it's this electronic signature, the registration procedure can take only 5 minutes. So it's really easy and doing this yeah, you can do many things by having a Tunduk signature. So taxes, also in unified tax regime, it depends on the way of payment. So non-cash payment, it means 4%, 6% from income in cash payments way. You're obliged to have to maintain accounting records, but in most simple way when you're an individual entrepreneur. This rule is not strict work so strictly in comparison with LLC. And use of profit also with the same rule as I said before about tax residentship. So free disposal after tax payment if you are local tax resident. If you're not, you're obliged to pay tax profit tax. And reporting, like a type of reports, quarterly and annual. Limitation for activity, it's four types for activity. One gonna indicate it in your certificate and three as additional types. Key features of the unified tax regime. So taxes must be paid on all revenue, including grants, including donations. So it's also can be not so nice to hear. Yeah, I know it, but even for grants and donations, if you choose a unified tax and you LLC or individual entrepreneur, you're obliged to pay even from even from grants and donations. And no limits on total revenue volume. It's also good news. You can earn as much as you can. Nine subtypes of the unified tax. Yeah, we will not discuss about this in details because we're gonna take a lot of time. But just for your information, nine subtypes existed in unified tax regime. And this unified tax regime are not available to all. So, for example, for financial brokers or insurance company, banks, financial organization, they cannot use this regime. Unified tax rates for IT sector. For example, if you're not consider about HTTP residentship, so IT sector, if you, for example, developing these IT products, and you receive money in non-cash way, yeah, so like via accounts, bank accounts, so you're obliged to pay only 2% from your income and 4% in way of cash payments. For residents of Creative Industries Park, we have this special law for about this industry, and it's quite impressive law. And if you have this question, please let us know in the end of this presentation about Creative Industries Park. So in total, now for this year and for next, it's 2%. 1% goes to the Creative Industries Park and 1% go to the state. And starting from 2027, it's going to increase like 2% go to the SIP, to the Creative Industries Park, and 1 to the state. Yeah, and finally, we are looking the slide about high technology park. So, tax benefits for high technology park residents, they're quite impressive, and I know this. Very well. And well, first of all, tax rate only 1%. This is the lowest rate for all taxpayers in our country. And if you are HTTP resident, you accept from the following taxes. So profit tax 10%, sales tax 3%, VAT 12%, and which is more important, which is really interesting, and reverse charge of VAT. It's also 12%. It's applicable in case when, for example, you decided you bought advertisement from Google or Meta or other tech companies or other companies who are brought from the country, from Kyrgyzstan. And usually from other taxpayers who are not HTTP residents, they obliged to pay a reverse charge VAT. So it means that our country cannot find taxpayer who receive this money, yeah, from you, and they just transfer this liability to you. Like you are payer, and you pay to the non-residents, and you're obliged to pay for them taxes. So this is can be strange, but this is how it works in our country. And yeah, and that's why I'm saying that to be HTTP residents, it's quite profitable and attractive because you exempt from this situation, yeah, like reverse charge VAT. And personal income tax, Chubak already told you about this, that it's only 5%, not 10%. From other taxpayers who are using another tax regime, they are obliged to pay 10%, not 5. And this is also good to know about high technology park. And yeah, at least 80% of the residents' income must come from abroad. It's the export of services or goods, and activities must be related to software development, export of IT services and software, and creation of interactive service centers. And all payments are required to be cashless. And this is also important information because you cannot receive money in cash way. Yeah, it can be violated by the law, and it can be violated law, and so that's why all payments are required to be cashless. HTTP residents must undergo an annual financial audit at their own expense. And usually, financial audit is not so expensive in our country. Like it's starting from 500 USD for 1 year, and in comparison with other which benefits you receive from being HTTP residents, for me it's outweighed the cost. Yeah, so it's obvious that it's better to be HTTP resident and pay for financial audit, yes, but you receive much more, like many tax privileges, and this status gives you guarantee that tax authority and even law enforcement authority cannot start like criminal investigation about your company, against your company or founder, because you on the legal level, on the law level, you protected. And because this high technology park gives you this guarantee, and I mean on the level of law, yeah, of course, that you exempt from the following taxes, as I said. About employees, and this is gonna be the last topic. General information. So, if you decided to hire a employee, yes, a person, a foreigner, local, you're obliged to conclude employment contract, sign employment contract, issue official order, and make entry in the labor book. So these sections are required. Social guarantees applied only to former employees. Why I'm using these formal employees? Because sometimes people say to me like, we have a service agreement, but my employee ask about paid vacation. Yeah, and this is contradiction for me because if you have a service agreement with your employees, you cannot use this term like employees. This is a service provider. And it means that service provider, unfortunately, does not have a right to get paid vacation. Yeah, so it works only for employees. And this term, employee, it's only when we have employment contract. We cannot use this term in case when we have a service agreement. So social guarantees, what type of social guarantees? Yeah, so maternity, paternity leave, paid vacation, sick leave, and sometimes people can abuse about these guarantees. Yeah, some employees I know such examples. But anyway, our law states that as employer, you, for example, you see your employer, you're obliged to guarantee and provide all social guarantees to your employees. And dismissing an employee for cause, it's difficult. So it's not easy to say goodbye to your employee and just close the door. It's not how it works in our country, and specifically, to be precisely, on the labor code. So it requires have valid legal grounds, and you cannot say that he's like not qualified enough, yeah, or something like that. If you state so and think so, you have to prove and have to prove this, like by organizing examination, testing, not for only one employee, for all staff. Yeah, so that's why it can take time, energy, um, and sometimes money. So that's why dismissing an employee for cause is difficult, and you need to find valid legal grounds and must notify at least 1 month in advance. Maximum working hours for an employee. So standard working time, it's up to 40 hours per week. So you can see this number in a month. Um, Part-time employment, secondary job is also like applicable here, and you can sign with someone employment contract just as part-time, yeah. And we have regulation, it's in a week only 20 hours and 80 hours in a month. Overtime work and total possible monthly working hours, including full-time, part-time, and overtime, it's up to 324 hours in a month. So it also can be like big numbers, yeah, actually, because some employees ask to pay for hours, yeah, and in the hours, and by using some specific calculation, employee can earn big money. Minimum age for employment, I decided to put this information also because we have examples in our market when employee only 15 years old or 17 years old in IT market, I mean. So that's why we have also some specific regulation about this. Working hours for minors age from 14 to 16, it's maximum 24 hours per week, and ages from ages 16 to 18, maximum 36 hours per week. What's important? So parental consent is required. So it's like a contract when three parties sign this employment contract, like employer, parent, yeah, and minor. Is sufficient, yes, and authorization is not required, and night work is strictly prohibited. So you cannot involve minors to night work. Yeah, and I guess this is last slide. Yes, now we are open for session questions and answers, please. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to ask your questions. Thank you. Yes, Kasia, thank you for your feedback. Yeah, we will send our presentation to your email. Yes, we have your email on registration list, so yes, you will receive our presentations. Mhm. Okay. Another questions? Hmm. I guess yeah, we can. Chibak, what do you think? Um, can we we received one question from Kasiyet. Yeah, and I guess that's it because we have a specific numbers of participants, and I guess we will not receive any questions.
Yeah, we I think we made a uh, written for right. I mean, not written, recorded webinar. So
Yeah,
anyone who is interested, I think we will share. And if there are any questions, so they have our emails and our presentations. So I think it will be good so that we can finish and send for future, let's say, participants possible questions. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining Kasiyat and the questions. Yeah, and thank you very much, Fatima,
you're welcome. Always welcome.
during these holiday days to make a webinar. And I think that will be very interesting for our future um, participants, future residents, or future companies that are entering Kyrgyzstan market.
I agree. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and yeah, stay in touch. And please feel free to write to back to me. You can find our contacts like internet or on social media. Yeah, it's easy to find us on social media. Okay, have a
Thank you,
nice
Anu.
weekend. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.